So, Attack on Titan is pretty great, right? Attack on Titan has been a shocking and violent anime since 2014. It has continued to shake up the anime community with its horrific violence and surprisingly simple premise. Man-eating giants are trying to kill all of humanity. Simple enough, right?
Wrong, sir. Wrong.
Attack on Titan is a subversive masterclass in how to tell a story about the horrors of war, not just externally, but internally as well. To start, a spoiler warning for the entire series. It would do the show a disservice to talk about the themes without talking about key examples, so if you have any interest in watching Attack on Titan, or more likely you just aren't caught up yet, then pause this and go watch the series right now. The first thing anyone should know about Attack on Titan is that it is violent with a capital V. People are torn limb from limb, bitten in half, pulverized, and consumed unceremoniously by the walking abominations called Titans. All of this death and destruction will feel overwhelming at some point to every viewer, and that's one of the major ideas this series uses to highlight its themes. Horror in war. Most series would make death en masse either heroic or deeply dramatic, filling the scenes with as many heroic sacrifices or meaningful deaths as possible. But oftentimes AOT characters will just die. Like, they don't get any last words or big speeches beforehand. They're there 1 minute and the next they aren't. It is sudden, and then the scene moves on. For the first few episodes, it's clear that no one is safe from the destruction the Titans are capable of. Not even the main characters. You get to know an entire training squad from boot camp to their first deployment, watching as they grow in skill and get ready to face off against their sworn enemy, but just as suddenly their squad is easily torn to pieces by an unintelligible enemy. The Titans themselves are fascinating because of their appearances. Aside from their immense size, they appear human enough, but their limbs and bodies are warped in all sorts of ways. There's always something wrong with them. Large eyes, small legs, twisted smiles. Titans always look like something decidedly unhuman, which makes them all easier to kill for our heroes. They are the enemy after all, it's not like they're human. They want to kill humanity, and we need to kill them all before they kill us. The main character of this series, Eren Yeager, has the standard anime protagonist dream, but his is far more soul-crushing. Where Naruto wants to become Hokage or Luffy wants to become King of the Pirates, Eren Yeager wants to kill all Titans. This isn't treated as a hopeful, whimsical wish either. One where all of humanity might one day be free. No. It's raw, unadulterated hatred. The Titans are monsters to Eren Yeager, and he would happily slay every one of them without a second thought, as would damn near every other character in the series for most of the show. This is until Season 3, where it's discovered that every Titan is actually a human being who's been transformed, mutated into these mindless abhorrents. As early as Season 1, it was discovered that some Titans had intelligence, and were people deep down, but they were always the exceptions to the rule. Often they were people that Eren knew, too, and I do not believe that this was a coincidence. Sure, the story arc was about Titan-shifting traitors infiltrating humanity, but I believe the author made this decision to illustrate a clear point about othering an enemy. The condition and quality of otherness is a state of being different from and alien to the social identity of a person and to the identity of the self. Casting the Titans with otherness, while showing that the more intelligent Titans are not just human, but at first Eren's friends, the author is showcasing an understanding of critical theory. It was as if Eren were to directly say, well, most Titans are mindless, but Annie's one of the smart ones. To be clear, it's not as if Annie is smarter because she's one of Eren's friends, but I believe Hajime built his series to reveal Titan shifters as Eren's friends first, in order to showcase a slow build understanding of Eren's comprehension of the world. The longer he and the scout regiment travel, the more Titan shifters they discover, and the fewer and fewer turn out to be people they already knew. The characters start to realize that the Titans themselves are not this unknowable enemy a la an eldritch horror, but rather an invention of mankind in another part of the world outside of their walls. The truth is that Titans were a biological weapon of sorts, meant to destroy a civilization without risking their own soldiers. Some intelligent shifters were led to lead them, or creatively weaken the walls from within, but ultimately, it was part of an invasion. The struggle of Attack on Titan is not humanity versus Titans, but rather humanity versus humanity, and how far they are willing to go to exterminate one another. Back to Eren Yeager's dream, would he still have dreamt of exterminating all the Titans at the beginning of the series if he knew they were all people? Would it have seemed as heroic? Did it ever? There's a moment at the midpoint of Season 3 where Eren begins to question this, when the cold Mikasa tells him to shut up and eat. She, like the military they all serve, does not want Eren to question the morality of fighting their enemy. Questions bring hesitation, and hesitation leads to death and defeat. These characters do not live in a world where examining why you fight is constructive. Sure, they examine how to defeat their enemy and how to enhance their weaponry, but they never truly ask, why? Simply put, it's because Reiner, Bertold, and the other people of Marley have othered the inhabitants of the walls. Later, when Armin attempts to negotiate, Bertold responds with the line, "If I agree to talk, do you all agree to die?" The lines are clear. It's us or them. Attack on Titan delves deeply into the false theme of heroism, specifically war heroism. Everyone wants to be the silent badass, the Levis or Mikasas, who can kill 50 Titans without breaking a sweat, but these characters are very few. Every character in this series at some moment reaches a breaking point, where the carnage they've seen and committed just catches up with them. Very few of these moments result in a Super Saiyan transformation moment either, a moment where the pain of loss triggers an unstoppable battle rage. That's not to say it never happens, but more often these breakdowns end in tears and whimpering sobs. The amount of times Eren himself is traumatized beyond words is grotesque, but essential for the theme of this series, that being the destruction that war has on people. Even our so-called villains aren't immune to these breakdowns, as we can see in Season 2 with Reiner. Reiner was one of the Titan shifters I mentioned earlier, and an infiltrator into the Scout Regiment. It was he and his friend Bertold who broke the wall and instigated the action in the series opener. All the death and destruction the series has had is a direct result of their actions, and they know it. That said, they still join the military as a way of learning the tactics of the Scouts. All this time though, Reiner convinces himself that he is actually a soldier, having split himself down the middle. He cannot live with the guilt of having caused so much death, and his mind breaks down. He often has to be reminded by his friend that he is a warrior, a term native to his homeland of Marley. During a chase sequence in Season 2, his squad reminds him of their time in boot camp, of the years they spent training together, and how monstrous he is now. Reiner and Bertold attempt to have it both ways, trying to say that the friendships were always real, but they were always warriors too. But it falls on deaf ears. These friendships were poisoned from the beginning, and there is no changing that. And it hurts. It hurts the squad, it hurts Reiner and Bertold, and it hurts the audience, because just for a moment, as Reiner is crying and justifying it, you forget the atrocities he's committed. You know he's Eren's enemy, but you see the person behind the crime. You see the man who was just following orders. It never excuses his actions, and it could never redeem him. But you realize that his actions were decided by the society he lived in. Bertold breaks down in Season 3, coming to the realization that nobody is at fault, but one side must be extinguished. Nobody's in the wrong. There's nothing we could do, because the world is just that cruel. Every part of the war the Scouts have to fight against the Titans hurts them. No victory comes without heavy losses, and oftentimes they lose soldiers for no reason at all. Bad luck, poor positioning, or simply no information was gathered. Soldiers in Attack on Titan will often die for no reason, in missions that accomplish nothing at all, and it's sad. Like, it hurts to watch people die, believing so hard that they are protecting humanity, only to later realize either the mission didn't mean anything, or in the end they were just killing humans anyway. Erwin, the commander of the Scout Regiment, makes the proclamation that life is meaningless. He claims that it is up to the living to find meaning for the deaths of their fallen comrades, seeing it as the only way to rebel against a cruel world. That's the point of the entire series, though, to look at the damage of war and realize that it's always horrific. There's no such thing as a perfect soldier, and there's no such thing as a justified war. I mentioned Mikasa and Levi as badasses earlier, but both of them are mentally and emotionally damaged to the point where the only place they could ever fit in is one where they kill things on a regular basis. In social situations, the two are slow to answer or even speak if it isn't about a mission. The best soldiers in this series are closed-off killing machines who have had the empathy beaten out of them.
Well, maybe that's because Tertius knew there was some value to the men thinking he was the meanest, toughest son of a bitch in the whole Roman Legion.
When Mikasa is given the first order to kill humans, not Titans, but humans, she hardly bats an eye, while the rest of her comrades are shocked and hesitate. Late in the final season, a group of Levi's own soldiers are turned into Titans, but he wastes barely a moment dispatching them, even chiding the villain for thinking he'd ever hesitate to kill them. You don't have a damn clue how many comrades we've killed. Eren Yeager, the hero of the story, becomes a Titan shifter, but he can't just activate it himself. He, like most other shifters, literally needs to injure himself to activate this ability. His call to action is biting his own hand so hard it bleeds, and the terrifying thing is, sometimes, it just doesn't work. Sometimes Eren just injures himself and nothing happens at all. Everything about becoming a Titan Shifter, these seemingly invincible weapons of war, harms the user. It's discovered in Season 3 that once someone becomes a Titan Shifter, they only have 13 years to live, until they simply drop dead. The same thing that is making Eren powerful is also what is killing him, both physically and emotionally. I think the most interesting thing the series has done is the juxtaposition of Season 1 and Season 4. In Season 1, Eren and humanity within the walls were helpless to stop an unknown, all-powerful threat that shattered their way of life forever, killing thousands. In Season 4, Eren and the forces of the Scout Regiment are the unstoppable force, dominating their way through Marley, killing thousands. The promotional images for Season 1 and Season 4 have Eren in place of the Colossal Titan, showing not just a dramatic character growth, but showcasing how he has become the very thing he swore to kill, a great destroyer. What the series has done is placed Eren as the ultimate threat, and even uses Season 4 to establish the characters of Marley as people, not mustache-twirling villains, but people with hopes and dreams and lives. Lives which are shattered by Eren Yeager and the Survey Corps. Eren kills innocent civilians and even children to accomplish his new goal, not the death of all Titans, but the utter destruction of those who created the Titans in the first place. He shows little to no remorse for their lives, so much so that when discussing this dramatic change, many of his closest friends would rather believe that he's been brainwashed than consider that he is acting freely. To the story's credit, Eren isn't being brainwashed. He wasn't corrupted by the dark side or possessed by some demon, but rather he fell from grace in a personal, almost intimate way. He gave moral concession after moral concession in order to do harm, to win the war forever. But the sad truth is, no one ever wins war. To get a bit anecdotal for a second, I have seen no shortage of fans who comment on Attack on Titan Season 4, saying something to the effect of, "Marley had it coming, I didn't see the problem. Fuck these new characters, Eren should kill all these people." And it just makes me really sad. More than any character death or plot reveal, this makes me so sad. Because these are real people watching a series about the horrors of war and either missing or ignoring the point. War isn't about who had it coming or who deserved it. War is not about anything beyond domination. It's about pride, power, and destruction. And to look at Marley being destroyed and think, hell yeah, bitch, this is for Erwin, is to fundamentally misunderstand the text of the series. This isn't a traditional action shonen like Naruto where the villain is villainous because he's evil. This is a series about humanity and how far it is willing to go to hurt itself. There's a conversation in Season 3 where Commander Pixis states, humanity will always fight itself until there is one or less person left. Attack on Titan has created a series where even rooting for the protagonist comes with a moral decision. The music is hype, and the animation is stellar, but what you are watching is essentially the protagonist committing war crimes. Attack on Titan is a series about humanity and the horrors of war. It isn't a fun show or a happy show, but it is a great one, diving headfirst into the psyche of being a soldier, of dealing with battlefield traumas, and of loss. No one in this series is above the violence. Only by submerging yourself as a viewer into the horror and carnage can you see the messages the series has for its audience. It has all the gloss and spectacle of an action series, but the soul of the story is about tragedy, and how much we as humans are willing to sacrifice in order to hate our enemies. I highly recommend you watch the series for yourself, if you can handle the horrors of the show. It is certainly not for everyone, but the grit of the series comes from the characters seeing what you see and pushing through the pain to survive one more day. Every character adds to the themes of the series in a unique way, from their camaraderie to their relationships to even their history with the nations they serve. It is a thoughtful, action-packed, and moving series that speaks volumes to the horrors of violence and war. Now that the analysis is out of the way, you have a choice. Leave now like most people did after Season 1, or watch me talk about the small things throughout the series that I love so much. Music, scenes, characters, and so on. This is essentially my best of moments from the series. If you're not into a more casual look at some of the hypest moments in the show, or you'd rather just watch the show for yourself, I implore you to go watch the show right now, and then come back later. Okay? Cool, here we go. First off, the openings. The first 3 openings are wonderful and bombastic, but are effectively propaganda. The series hasn't had the dramatic reveal that all Titans are humans yet, so this energy is congruent with how they want the audience to feel. Every one of these first 3 OPs should have "Join the Fight" written across the bottom bar, and a link to some sort of enlistment site. OP4, Red Swan, changes this format up because this portion of the series is where we get the change up. Our characters begin killing humans, and Titans are rarely, if ever, seen in this portion of the show. It's human conspiracies, as well as looking into the past of several of our leads: Aaron, Levi, Historia, and Erwin. The OP cuts a clear divide between the carefree youth of these characters and the hardened, almost soulless people they've now become because of this war. OP5 is a return to form, this time hyping up the biggest battle in the series to date. The music glides and is extremely reminiscent of the first OP, which was so popular it practically began the X goes with everything trend. Everyone who watches anime has probably heard OP1 before, so to bring back elements of it for this last arc is a marvelous choice. Much of the OP shows off moments of this 6-episode long fight scene, ending with a very clear view of the objective: the mysterious basement that will provide our leads with all the answers they seek. OP6, My War, is exceptional because where all the previous OPs are littered with meaning, both literal and symbolic, My War has none of that. No images or direct events, no subtle imagery, none of it. Instead, it is simply colorful explosions consuming gray, featureless characters. Identical birds fly, identical soldiers march, and oftentimes shots of explosions are repeated. All of this builds to a single unspoken statement: war is pointless. It's the same fights over and over. The lives lost are interchangeable. To a war, the flesh that is lost is unidentifiable from one another. All that matters, all that has color, is the weapons, the explosions, the fallout. Lives don't matter, and the vast destruction is all that remains. In a war, only the damage counts. The best character. This is the most arbitrary, subjective thing I have to say, but Reiner Braun is the best character the series has produced. I know everyone wants to simp for Levi, and who doesn't love Aaron's rampage and Marley, but in terms of character depth, no one can hold a candle to Reiner. While clearly the villain in Season 2 and 3, the first half of Season 4 has Reiner take the role of protagonist. We see flashbacks of him as a young cadet in his homeland, what he was taught growing up, how his father rejected him for being Eldian, and how he was never meant to become a warrior, but was instead thrust into it because Marcel wanted to spare his own brother from horrors Reiner now has to endure. Reiner's hesitation cost the life of Marcel too, but even still, Reiner pushed forward. He commanded Annie and Bertolt to destroy the wall, and in doing so killed thousands of people. Reiner, so completely tortured by his decisions, split himself psychologically to help his mind comprehend and forget the terror of his choices. He has to live with what he's done, and he clearly can't. Often Bertolt has to remind him why they're there. Eventually though, Reiner breaks and just asks Aaron, the point of their mission, to come back with them. 5+ years of waiting, of watching the consequences, and he just couldn't handle it anymore. Even Bertolt was surprised. This clearly fails, and after several more losses to Aaron specifically, he returns to Marley in shame. He was the sole survivor of his mission. He essentially becomes the big brother to the next generation of warrior candidates, but occasionally he can't help but see shades of his old childhood friends, all too ready to embark on missions they could never hope to understand. Much like Marcel saved his brother, Reiner tries to convince Falco to surpass his sister Gabby in order to spare her from the horror she'll no doubt face if she successfully becomes a warrior. He doesn't want anyone to go through what he's gone through ever again. The moment where he meets Aaron after 4 years, so tortured and traumatized by his actions, it's just pure concentrated tension. Reiner was moments away from taking his own life, eroding under the pressure of his actions, and in walks in the culmination of all the harm he's done, the man who swore to kill all of his enemies. Reiner is powerless to stop him. He cries, he bows, he begs, but Aaron gives nothing away. Aaron transforms and demolishes Reiner's home. There's been too much damage. There's nothing Reiner can do. He should just die, right? What's the point? Much like Aaron realized in Season 3, Reiner recognizes that he isn't fighting for his own life anymore, but the better future of the next generation. Yes, he is irredeemable, but he cannot let those he loves die. He transforms to fight Aaron, a man who has beaten him twice already when Reiner was in his prime, and today he very much isn't. Even still, he stands, not to fight, but to save others. He doesn't kill the other scouts to get Eren's attention. Hell, he doesn't even throw a punch. He simply pulls his allies out of Eren's warpath, stalling just long enough for Eren to need to retreat, before collapsing himself. Reiner is not a good guy. He's only barely a lead, but he is interesting, which is why he's my favorite. Random things that make me feel alive. Reiner lifts the Titan and carries it upstairs, only to throw it out a window. Mikasa carries 3 I-beams by herself. William Tybur's declaration of war and the ensuing chaos. Monkey throwing a horse. 7 people have to kill the Colossal Titan, a feat that is seemingly impossible in only a few minutes. Levi going full tilt on Annie. Levi going full tilt on Zeke. Erwin charging so that Levi can go full tilt on Zeke. Levi going full tilt on Zeke, Part 2. The credits of Season 3, Episode 12, because I was watching it late at night, and I knew it would be the last time I would hear it, so I didn't skip it, and they decided to change it up in a scary way and end it with Mikasa nearly killing Levi, the most what-the-fuck tense thing up to that point. I switched to watching the sub because hearing people in the dub scream and beg for their lives gave me honest nightmares. Here's that clip! The line Reiner says to Eren during CQC training, where he tells Eren, "It's your turn to be the bad guy." The look Reiner gives Armin when Armin thinks the female Titan broke the wall. The song that plays when Historia refuses to become the founding Titan. The musical cue of any Ackerman about to demolish a Titan shifter. Hanji. The quiet happiness of Season 3, Episode 12 before the absolutely crippling battle of Shiganshina. The revelations within the basement actually have answers and recontextualize the entire series in a perfectly understandable and mind-blowing way. The finesse with which the series makes the Armored Titan Eren's rival and not the Colossal Titan, even though the Colossal Titan is the biggest and most marketable. The moment where Sasha calls Connie an idiot, only for Connie to say that she's an idiot, and they both stare at each other and go, "What?" The absolute heartbreak felt when Eren said, "The enemy's on the other side of here. If we kill them all, does that mean we'll be free?" By this point, you've already heard the conclusion of this video, so I'll keep it brief. If you want me to make an AMB, a trailer edit, or another discussion video like this, go to my Patreon and donate $5, and you'll be able to choose exactly what it is that I make next, and end up in the credits of future videos. Until next time.